Hey,
Hey,
I'm like, how do I make you a co-host? Um, it's like telling me that I to make you a host. Wait, okay, hold on. Mm, let's see. Okay, I can go to participants right here. Okay, more. Okay, I'm just gonna make you a host. Change host. So I make you the host.
okay.
You should be able
Now
to.
what?
This is funny. It's like now I'm like, oh, I've never done this on Zoom. So let's see.
It would
Okay.
appear we didn't practice the other day the right way.
You're so right about, and I'm here and I'd be like, this was me today.
Nice.
I was like, can it show? Can it really show? I'm like, yeah. And I was like, okay, I gotta get creative. I took out like my what do you call this? My Christmas tree. It's in a box.
Oh, okay.
So like I need somewhere where it can be a little bit elevated. So I'm like, okay, this works. I
Yeah.
practice today. I change up the numbers a little bit because I'm like, I'm gonna keep it simple, but it's right around it. Still have it there and have them like chatting and all that stuff. But I should make a post now. That's what I should do. How I do, copy the invite link, and I could do this. I need to put my phone on do not disturb. Copy. And I go in Facebook and then Discord. And do general. How do I? Ugh. No, I can't even find this. Okay, here we go. Done. Paste. Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. So I am trying to put this in. How am I doing this? Oh, I see. Now I gotta be like, attached. How do I attach a photo? Add to your post. No, start over. Discard post. And then we're gonna do underwriting Zoom happening now. Then we're gonna attach a photo. Done. Face. Homework. Oh wow. Oh wow. Oh, it's 7 o'clock. Oh, we're right on time. Hi guys. Hi Sophie and Danny. We're doing some last minute marketing. I'm gonna put my phone on do not disturb. Let's drop that in here. And then this is weird because this is the first time I'm ever using Facebook story. And I'm like, how do I post on here? Thanks. Ah. So I can put a link. Okay, we can do happening now. Share. All right. Hey, hey. Oh, Barb is here too.
What's up, girl? How are you?
How are you?
I am just great. How about yourself?
Pretty good. We're good.
Good, good.
Hopefully this goes as smoothly as possible.
I'm sure it will.
You know, fingers crossed, fingers crossed, fingers crossed. You know,
I'm
guys,
crossed.
I love it how you guys are on time. This is amazing.
I just got lucky.
No, I'm gonna give some persons like a few extra minutes before we kind of like dive in because we want to value everyone's time while we're here.
I'm so sad we're conflicting. We're conflicting here with something. It's another Zoom.
Wait, there's another Zoom happening now?
Girl, the women's one is on at this time, which I'm sure many of them would have been here, and I don't know who knows what.
Oh, which woman Zoom?
Yeah, the women's weekly is at this time. For a minute there, I got confused. Yeah, the one that you know which one. Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank.
I know there's a woman like Zoom happening on Saturday mornings.
This is the weekly one that takes place that they usually I had missed a whole bunch of them, and I just recently was exposed to the fact that there was a weekly Monday night, and I thought,
I need to join that because I didn't know about that.
well, I'm gonna send it to you right now.
Yes, please, because I want to be a part of that. So, you know, the other day I was thinking there's so many women's group and I've never seen a group for men.
Well, they have their own group all the time, so we just had to make our own group. Sorry, guys, no offense. No
Like
offense.
I always see the women's group, but I don't see much men's group. But I'm like, I love it. We're here to empower each other. I love
I like
it.
to commingle. It's all right.
Oh, tell me about it, man. This is good. Well, now that I know, because I didn't know they had a weekly Zoom on Monday nights. That's good to know. I always go to the Saturday mornings one. Those are
Yes. Yeah.
those are pretty good. And see, give them a few more minutes. I see some other familiar faces. Abner, we haven't chatted in so long. And I see Marquisha and Jonathan is here. Jonathan is always tuning in. And guys, feel free. I like looking at, I know you have pretty faces, but I like to see the cameras on. It's very fun. It's like feed off the energy. So I love this if you can. I don't judge. And if your hair is not calm and you're, you know, like, I feel like I can be more interactive.
Yeah.
Than photos, you know,
Yeah.
taking care of the kiddos. Oh, no worries, Jonathan. See, this is like, so a quick story. Every time Jonathan is always on my Zooms, and no matter like whatever he has going on, he like always tune into the Zooms all the time. Like he's always showing up. Like, shout out to you, Jonathan. You should give a pat on your shoulder. Pat yourself. Because that's good. That's really good. Yeah, I love it. He's always like multitasking. I love it. I love it. And then what is here? Gonna do a few more. And give some time. So if you guys like we have a little bit more time, like if you can share. I know this Zoom is all about like underwriting, but what are you guys expecting to learn from this? It's gonna be very interactive, but if you guys can like unmute yourself and just share, what are you looking to learn from it? Barbara's here.
I made it. Yes. I'm always looking to learn. Underwriting is not my thing. It's not my strength. So I'm not trying to go against what my strengths are. However, feeling a little bit more comfortable and confident in that area is something I'm always trying to do. So maybe the more I hear it and the more I drill it in my brain, it'll start to build on that confidence level. I'm still going to hand it off to somebody who knows it better than me, because that's just the smart way to play, right? But I think that, not feeling like I need to curl into a little ball and run into a corner every time I need to analyze a deal is going to be a really good thing for me. So I always feel like it's great to see things happen. I'm a very hands-on visual person. We talked about this, this. So if I can see it and I can do it myself enough times, then I become familiar and comfortable. But if someone just kind of hands me something or says, here's a calculator, go use it, I'm going to be like, what does that mean? So that's no good. I need to be actively doing something with the information, and then it becomes more real. So the more I get engaged and involved, the easier it'll be for me to feel more comfortable. So,
I love that you share that, because when I just got into real estate, I used to hear on Bigger Pockets from Brendan Turner. He's like, analyze a deal every day, just one deal a day. And it took me a while for me to get it, because I'm like,
mm-hmm.
I don't know what the rehab is. I don't know what the ARV is.
Yeah.
And it was driving me nuts. But I think one day when I was playing around with the Bigger Pockets calculator, it hit me, and it's like, Kalisha, it doesn't matter if you don't know the numbers. The goal is to understand what numbers affect what.
Right. Right.
And if you're able to know that, you do not need a fancy calculator.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so many persons get fancy calculators and they get so overwhelmed. And every time someone has a new calculator, they want access to it. But if you're able to do napkin under, like pen and paper, the basic stuff, and you can see the numbers there, you know that, okay, if I want to increase my cash flow, this is what I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to increase my cash and cash return, this is what I need to do. So I think once we get that understanding that it doesn't matter what the number is, but for you to understand what numbers affect what, then it will make your life so much easier.
I'm waiting for that.
Which is why with this Zoom, it would be very good if you guys have a pen and paper and your calculator, because we're going to be very hands-on. And I have a member of my team, Aaron. So if you guys have ever submitted a deal, Aaron is the one who's like, approve, I need more info. Nope, not doing this.
We all need one of those.
Aaron is our underwriter. He's fantastic. He's also will be guiding me today in terms of the chat when we're going through, if we need more questions and everything like that. So we want to be we're going to keep it super, super simple. 7:05, so we're going to start. We're going to keep it super simple. And if you guys have questions, I mean, it's a small group now, so you guys can feel free to unmute yourselves and like butt in as well. And then Aaron is going to pitch in as well. So we're going to have an open conversation. Don't be shy. Like, trust me, don't be shy. This is for you to understand the basics, because we find persons would submit deals to us and they'll be like, this is a great deal. And when we present why it's not a great deal, they're like, oh, now I see. That makes so much sense. So I think if persons know beforehand how to do certain calculations, they will know if this is something worth their time or not. So we're gonna jump right in, but a little bit intro about me. If you guys, I know like I've worked with Abner. Guys, this is the first I'm seeing Abner's face, and we've texted a ton. We've talked so much, and this is the first time I'm seeing his face, so that's really good. But I am based here in Tampa, Florida, and I got into real estate about 3 years ago, doing it full time about a year after I quit my job. I started doing fix and flips. Now I focus mainly on short-term rentals and raising private capital. And what I realized that because I'm connecting with so many different persons, I also realized that these persons who have the capital, they don't know what a good deal looks like. They would hear what other persons think is a good return, but they don't know what that means to them. So I think it was an opportunity to, when I started sharing with persons how to underwrite deal, what to look for, explaining the private money lending process, I realized there's a lot of persons really don't know about it. So if persons really know the basics, it's easier for them to guide conversations, raise capital, get their deals funded, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a little bit about me. And as I said, this is gonna be very engaging. We even, like Aaron and I, we had a practice. We had to do a practice Zoom because we're like, we need to come up with some numbers because we can get technical. And we want to keep it so simple so it's not overwhelming. So where our numbers might be a little bit off, but we want you guys to guide us and work the calculation. So the first thing that we want to talk about is when you're doing, you get a deal, and whether you're going to raise private capital for it or you're looking for to get the deal yourself. There's certain information that you need, and that's called, like, we're looking at the property evaluation right now. So you need to know what is the value, like basic things. What is the purchase price? You got to know that. Not what you're going to offer, but what is the asking price? What is the rehab? It doesn't have to be perfect. You just need an estimate of what the rehab is. And you also need an estimate of the ARV. Right? And to find, you also need the ARV. You need to figure out, how am I going to acquire this property? Am I going to use a hard money lender? Am I going to use a conventional loan? Am I going to use straight private money? Or am I going to use this with creative financing? Now, Aaron and I were trying to figure out, okay, there's so many different ways to find ARV, but you don't want to waste your time doing a due diligence, like a deep underwriting for every single deal. So Aaron, you want to share like the basic, and this for Aaron, this is too basic, but Aaron is going to share how to come up with an ARV without any fancy software or anything like that.
Yeah, sure. So just to come up with a ballpark, right? I'm definitely more go super deep dive on everything. So to keep it as basic as I can, if I need a quick number, I'm gonna go to Zillow, Redfin, and Realtor.com. I'm gonna grab the estimates for each of them, and I'm gonna get an average of what those three are, just so that I have a baseline to start with.
Mhm.
That is not saying that any of those are accurate at all from just to get a baseline and get started.
That's it. Because at the end of the day, you guys just want to know, is this a deal that's worth my time to do a deeper underwriting? That's it.
Mhm.
You find the ARV, let's say someone, maybe a wholesaler or anyone else, they're like, hey, this is a creative deal. Then you need to ask the questions. Is it subject to, or is it seller financing? Are there any arrears? Is there any agent involved? What is the monthly payment? What is the loan type and the interest rate? Because you're going to see things on Facebook, you're going to see things on email. Oh my God, I have this creative deal. Like, you got to be very strategic at this point now. All right, this matches one box. It's in the market that I'm in. They have the basic info. It's a subject to, they have the underlying debt. For me to do a basic underwriting now, you reach out to the person. If they haven't stated if there are any arrears, hey, I see that you have this deal in Texas. Are there any arrears? Any agent involved? And you wait until you get all that info before wasting your time going down a rabbit hole trying to come up to make this deal a great deal. Because you're going to start underwriting, and then you're in the underwriting process. You're like, oh my God, I don't know if there are any arrears. And that can mess up your whole underwriting and your numbers. So with property evaluation, you need to know, what is the value and the condition? What is the purchase price? What is the rehab? What's the ARV? You also know that how are you going to acquire it, right? And then we're going to go now into the market analysis. Let's say you have all the info about the property. How are you going to get it? We're going to look at the market analysis. What this means is, I need to know, how much money can I make for this property? That's it. You just need an estimate. One, you maybe need to know, what is the long-term rent? You can go on Zillow, you can go in rentcast.io, you can go on Zillow, on Rentometer. You just need to know, what is the estimated market rent. Now, a lot of these are not accurate. But at least if you see the three different platforms, the range is about 2,100 to 2,300. Use the middle number, right? And you have that. Now you already know what's the market rent. Let's say you want to know what the short-term rent is. You don't need to go into a fancy calculator and getting all the basics. Go on AirDNA and you're simply put it in the address, right? Put the address in and it will give you the gross revenue. Let's say the gross revenue is $50,000. You need to figure out what is it monthly. So that $50,000 that AirDNA is telling you, you're going to divide up by 12 to find the monthly gross revenue. So that's one way now for you to figure out, you just figured out the short-term rental income, just a basic, right? As it relates for midterm rental, we all know you can do the same thing. You're going to go in Furnish Finder, put the address in as if you're searching for a house for yourself. And you put maybe the house that you're looking on, it's a 3-bed, 2-bath. You go in Furnish Finder, you put, I'm looking for a 3-bed, 2-bath. And you just zoom in on the area on Furnish Finder. And if common, you see a range between 2,000 to 3,000, and that's the average that you're seeing, you're going to find the middle ground. So you can maybe, okay, the middle of that is 2,500. That's it. You're not going to go into what the expenses are, all those stuff. You just want to know how much money can I make with any of the strategies. The good thing, maybe you know that I only want to do short-term rentals. So you're not even going to look on a midterm rental because that's not your thing. You're not interested in that. Fine. That's one less work for you as well. So only thing I care about is short-term rental. I want to see how much money this is going to make in as an SDR. And I will also consider an LTR. So you have the market analysis to figure out the income. Now we need to know what are the basic expenses that needs to be in our head that we're going to need. Now, whatever strategy that you choose, the expenses are going to be different. They're going to vary. Again, this is a napkin underwrite. You just want to know the basics. And the basics is going to be, for expenses, number one, what is the mortgage payment? That's it. That's the first thing. What is the mortgage payment? All right, I'm going to have repairs and maintenance. I'm just going to allocate 5%. On standard, it's 5 to 10%. Now, you guys don't need to like, oh my God, what if I'm underwriting this, that the vacant repairs is too low? We don't care about that. You want to know that you're budgeting for it. So any 5 to 10%, you can choose whatever number you want, right? You can do 5, you can do 8, but at least you're accounting for that. Then you have property management. Across the board, on average, that is 10% for long-term rental. Now, if you're going to do a short-term rental, that's a whole different thing. But we're going to, again, basic 10% property management. There's also going to be vacancies. You're going to put a standard 5 to 10%. In this case, we can do straight 5%. And then let's say you want to put, there's HOA. That's always common. Sometimes it's 0, sometimes it's not. So you ask, is there an HOA? You have that amount. And then we're going to put in, if you're looking to use a private money lender, you're going to have PML interest payment because that now becomes an expense. If you know that you're already putting up the capital out of your own pocket, then fine. But if you're thinking of borrowing money, you account for the interest monthly, whether you're paying it monthly or every 6 months, you're going to account for that as a monthly payment. Now, other expenses will pop up, but we don't care about that now, right? Other expenses such as utilities, cleaning fee, additional insurance, we don't care about that because when you dive deeper into that, that's when you have the property on the contract. That's when, all right, this is a solid deal. It checks out for the basic underwriting. Now I need to go back and get any additional info that I may need to see if this is something I need to put an offer on. So that's your first step, figuring out the basic. So we got the basic things for income, and we got the basic thing for expenses. that we need to know in our heads. These are the info that I'm gonna need when I'm working the math. And you guys are gonna see when you're doing a napkin underwrite, you can literally like work those maths on paper without any fancy calculator. The next thing, and this is gonna be super quick, is the borrower analysis. Once for us as well is that once Erin approves a deal, that okay, this is a deal that we need to raise private capital for, it passed the underwriting stage. The next step is to analyze or get more info on that borrower. That's when we're gonna reach out. We're like, all right, how much experience do you have? How many fix and flips have you done? How many rentals? Some persons, they've never done fix and flip or rentals, but they have done a ton of wholesale transactions. So we consider that as well. If they've ever borrowed money before, how much money have you borrowed? Do you have any referrals? Right? So when you guys are raising capital, if you've ever done any wholesaling, that is considered an experience. If you've worked for a real estate company and done property management, that is also considered an experience as well. If you're a part of an acquisition team, a dispo team, it is also considered your experience. You don't have to have done a full deal before. So now that we covered the basics, we're gonna go into some numbers because we know the basics. So we're gonna work this together. So the first case study that we're gonna go into is we're gonna assume that this deal is gonna be a cash deal. This is a cash deal, and the borrower is looking to use a hard money lender for this cash deal. Now, let's say, and as I said, we're working together, and let me know if you guys can see my screen fully. So let's say the purchase price for this project is gonna be 200,000, right? So we have 200,000. And the rehab, can you guys see my screen? Good?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So the purchase price is 200,000 and the rehab is 50,000. So 50,000. The ARV for this property is gonna be 350,000. Now, what we want to find, the first thing we want to find out, this is a cash deal. The borrower has a hard money lender in place. The first thing we want to find out, how much money is the hard money lender providing? Standard, most hard money lenders will provide 100% of the rehab and let's say 80 or 85% of the purchase price. So we're going to work that. We want to figure out what is the loan amount. So HML is doing, we said 100% of the rehab, which is a 50,000. And then let's say they're doing 85% of the purchase price. So what's 85% of 200,000?
170.
Perfect. So hard money is doing 170 for the purchase price. So the total loan amount for the hard money lender, that's 150 and 170 is 220. That's what the hard money lender is gonna give us. Now, this is just basic. This does not include any fees from the hard money lender or anything like that, because everyone's fees is gonna be different. But at least we know from the purchase and the rehab, this is what they're gonna give us. Now we need to figure out how much does this entire project cost, right? So total project costs, gonna put that here. That is usually the purchase price, which is 200,000. The rehab amount, which is 50,000. And then you have any additional costs, such as closing costs, holding costs. Everyone's cost is very different. You can have reserves, all that stuff. But let's say in this case, the closing cost is another $20,000 to acquire the property. So that includes the closing, the holding, HML fees, all that stuff. That's 20,000. So now your total project cost is 270. So it's costing you to buy the property in 123 Main Street, $270,000. But the hard money is only giving you 220, which means the borrower is short $50,000. That's where you're gonna raise private capital for, or gap funding, or whatever it is, because you're short $50,000. If you're not looking to use a gap funding, maybe you have the 50K in your pocket, fine by me, but don't do that. Leverage other people's money, because you never know what can happen to your rehab and you need that extra cash. So the total project costs $270 and the loan amount is $250, which means we need $50,000 in private money. So that's the first thing. So the borrower, that's where the borrower is coming to us in $50,000. So they submit everything. We're like, okay, we need to figure out with this $50,000, the total project cost, all that. How will the private money lender be protected? Is there enough spread, meat on the bone, for the lender to get their money back when this fix and flipper resells the property? So this is where now it gets simple. It's not technical, it gets super simple. You guys can still see my screen clearly, right? Okay, perfect. All right, so now for us, we need to figure out, is this a deal worth for us to raise capital for? Is this a deal where the private money lender is going to be protected? Remember, we said the ARV is 350. So we're going to work backwards. So we have 350 is you sell the house for 350. Now there's always a cost to sell the house. On average, is about 6%. It can go up to 8%. It can even go low to 3% because maybe the fix and flipper is also an agent, right? Where they can list the property. So let's, for standard, we're gonna do 6% of close the cost to sell. So 6% of 350 is how much?
21,000.
21,000. And 21,000 from the 350 leaves. Oh, how much? I have my phone.
329. 329. I got you.
329. All right, awesome. So 329. So we covered the closing cost to sell. So we're left with 329 in our pockets. The first person that needs to be paid is the hard money lender, right? Because they're in first lien, they're the one that's bringing all the capital, which we will touch on the benefits and the pros and cons of being in first lien and second lien. So 329. Remember, we took 220 from the hard money lender. They needs to be paid back first. So which means we're going to deduct 220 from the 329. You're left with 109. So far, looking good. Hard money gets paid, 109. They need 50,000 PML. We're looking at this. All right. Damn, this is a good spread. This is where we would stop or underwriting. If they wanted $100,000, then we would stop the underwriting because their spread so far after the hard money is 109. You realize that's too tight? Because without considering any additional expenses, the interest payments, that fix and flipper will basically be doing a deal for free. They won't be making any money. So 109, and we're gonna deduct the 50,000 from the 109, right? And let's say the interest payment for 12 months, 10%, that's about 5,000 in interest payment. So then you are left with, man, my math is bad. Is that 45,000? It should be, right? 109.
54.
54. Damn, my math is bad. 54,000. So from this, we're like, so far so good, right? From this, we can be like, there's a good spread. There is meat on the bone. We can raise private capital because even if the rehab goes over by an extra 20,000, he's still left with 30,000. There's still spread. But if it was for some persons, this is still a bad deal. But for us, it matches our criteria. There's a way for the private money lender to be paid back. And even if the property is sold for less than 350, it's still, there's enough meat on the bone. Because even if you work this back to the top, and the property got sold for 320, his profit just cut into 30,000. So you guys see where that is? So you want to make sure this here, there is enough spread. Because as much as is not a guarantee you're going to sell the property for 350. Another thing that we do is like, okay, if the ARV is really 350, let's work it backwards. What if it's on the market longer? What if we only sell it for 340? What does that spread now looks like? So you start over and you work from the top. So you have the 54 spread that is left. So that borrower is making 54,000. Now, if this property again, if the spread was 10,000, we would not raise private capital for it. But you have lenders who are okay with that. And here's why. Maybe they'll go in and they'll be like, hey, I don't want to lend interest on this, but I'd like to come in and be your partner and we're going to split the profit. Maybe that person who has the capital also has done a ton in fix and flip. So that borrower can leverage their experience and get a better rate. So there's so many different routes that we can take. So far, you guys understand when they say spread and meat on the bone? Okay, so that's if it's a cash deal. This is like the perfect scenario. But it doesn't matter what the numbers are. The goal is for you to know what to calculate. So you need to know what is the loan amount if this is a cash deal. You need to figure out how much is the total project cost. So you need to know how much money the lender is going to need. And you need to ensure that there's a way for the lender to get their money back. And
Kalisha.
Yeah.
This is a flip, right?
Yes.
What if I don't want to flip it? What if I want to burr it?
So good question. Oh, I love that. So if you want to burr it, and this is something that we do as well, you should always have a backup exit strategy. Because depending on the market, maybe you think it can sell for 350 in 6 months, but the market just completely switched. So as Aaron said, let's say we want to burr it. And for those who don't know, burr means buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. What this is saying is that you purchase a property, you're going to go and renovate it, and you're going to convert from a short-term loan, which is the hard money loan, into a longer-term loan, which is like a 30-year loan. On average, here's how you're working that math. I'm going to use a different marker for this. Okay, I had a black marker. Okay, here we go. All right, so I'm going to do the burr method. On average, banks are going to do 75% of the ARV. Sometimes you can get 80%, but you want to be safe. Sometimes it'll be extra safe and go 70%. But in this case, we're going to do 75%. So we're going to find 75% of the 350, which gives us, I think that's
262,500.
So that's 262,500. So here's what this is telling us. Damn, if the bank refinance, because the bank wants, you have to keep 25% equity. They're only giving you back 262,500. Can anyone tell me what is, if this is bad or if this is good? Don't be shy. Abner's reading through. All right, so I'm going to tell you guys. Here's why this is risky, because the bank is only giving you 262 when you refinance. The total project cost was 270. So that means they're leaving money in the deal. Because if you do a refinance, you want to be able to pull out minimum 270. Because you want to pull out the money to repay that hard money lender of his 220 that he lent you. you gotta be able to pay back the private money lender, which for his is 50 plus the interest. So if you should do 270,000 minus the 262,500, you're negative 7,500 minimum. Where's that 7,500 coming from? Now you have lenders, they're gonna be like, oh, that's okay. If you tell the borrower that, hey, I'm gonna leave 7,500 in the deal, but I have this property that's cash flow and I'll give you the capital, the cash flow from that. Or I have money in my bank account, I can pay you off with that. But a lot of lenders, they wanna know that if you should do a refinance, you can pull all their money out. Because that means it's not the hard money lender that's short 250. It's you that's short 250 because the hard money was 220. So after you deduct the 220 from the 262, you still have money back. It's your PML that's cut short because you're short funds with that. So any fix and flip that you guys want to do or you guys want to lend on, you want to make sure you're able to do a refinance. That is happening a lot right now to some investors where they're like, man, I can't sell this house. I'm going to refinance. I had someone call me today and they have one of my lenders lent them over 100,000. And before, when we did the numbers, the option was to refinance. So we're good. And he's like, Kalisha, I think we're definitely going to have to go the second route of refinance, but I'm going to need an extra month. Now, was that extra month holding cost accounted for in delays? Yes, it was. So these things happen. You can be investor doing fix and flip for years, but things happen. So you gotta make sure that you have more than one exit strategy as much as possible. Like, and this is something I do for myself. If the property if it only has one exit strategy, I'm not buying it. I'm not, because that means if that doesn't work out, I am doomed after that. So this is the basic scenario. If you guys are purchasing something cash and you learn how to do it, this is just a napkin underwrite for fix and flip and a napkin underwrite to do a burr. Any questions? If you guys are trying to, you can unmute yourself if you have questions or you can drop them in the chat. I'm happy to go over it and explain things more.
I have a question.
Yes.
Typically, when I'm pretty bad at like we were discussing in the beginning, I'm definitely not confident when it comes to like underwriting.
Mm-hmm.
But this is actually shedding some light, so it's pretty cool. When it comes to figuring out the exit strategy that you're comfortable with, I always resort to long-term rental. In my mind, that would make sense if I can rent this long-term, then it's easy for me to say, hey, it's probably a good deal. If MTR, STR, ad split, or anything else, wrapping doesn't seem to work. Am I right in thinking that, or is that like being too conservative when it comes to the last resort exit strategy?
So it's gonna come down to, honestly, you as the investor, what you're comfortable with, and if you're looking to raise private capital, the lender. But this is what I always say. If I'm using my own money and maybe it doesn't cash flow as a long-term rental for 6 months, depending on the case, I may do it. If I'm okay, if I have that capital to cover the 6 months until, because let's say you acquire a property and it has a tenant in there and the tenant lease expires in 6 months, but you know that tenant was paying way below market rent. Are you okay with paying that deficit until that tenant vacates? Right? And then as a private money lender, some private money lenders with wraps, you have private money lenders who love lending on wraps. They love it. For them, it's a quick return. But if you have a wrap as well, that lender needs to know, how am I getting my money back? A lot of us know with a wrap, if the entry fee is $30,000, And when you sell it on a wrap, yes, you were hoping to sell it for 30, but you only sell it for 25. What happens to the lender $5,000? Maybe the property cash flows so much, you can say to that private money lender, hey, the estimated cash flow is about like $700. I'll give you all the $700 until I prepay you that 5,000, or I'll pay you that 5,000 out of my pocket. So you have to present all those options so your lender know, oh, he thought about all of this. And you can present the numbers and you're not hoping for your lender to figure it out themselves. Good? Okay, perfect. Any more questions? And this is now where we're gonna get a little bit more technical. Because this is now we're gonna touch on creative deals. Gonna grab my marker. Creative deals have so many different, you have a center here and you can go left, right, up, down, all over, mix it all up. But again, we're gonna keep it basic for you. So it's funny, when I figured out all of this, I realized it didn't matter the numbers. It mattered, how much I want to put on it. So I want to go back a little bit. Damn, I erased it. If my spread, let's say my spread was 30,000, and I'm like, man, I want to make 50,000 worst case scenario. Then I'm like, where can I get that cushion of an extra 20? It could be maybe I need to reduce my rehab, because that means my loan amount is going to decrease. Maybe I need to reduce my offer on the purchase price, because most times you never want to cut your rehab low. Keep it what it is. So if the purchase price was 200, you're like, I want to make an extra 20,000. I want to have an extra 20,000 spread. I'm going to go back to the person like, hey, the most I can do is 180. So at least if the person counters and be like, can you push it up to 185? You're like, you're still winning. You just get an extra 15K cushion. But at least you know if you have to go up to 220, you already know your spread is 54,000. So that's something to consider. All right. So now we're gonna do some creative deals. And of course, we're gonna do short-term rental because it has a little bit more technicalities to it. So we're gonna do that. All right. So if you guys can remind me, and you can feel free to drop them in the chat, when doing a creative deal, when doing a property evaluation, what are some things that I need? What info do I need for a creative deal? Who's up? Even if you can't turn your video on, just unmute yourself and shout it out. Yes, I need the PITI. Barb, what do I need?
Well, you need to know if it's sub 2 or seller finance, if they're in arrears, if an agent's involved, right?
Yep. Yes, you need the purchase price, down payment. Okay. Markeisha, can you talk? What info do I need? Let's see if she can talk. No, who else? Andreas, can you talk?
Yes.
Love it. What other info do I need if I'm purchasing something for underwriting, for a creative deal?
The estimated monthly revenue.
Okay. What other info?
You already said PITI, right?
Yes.
I mean, if there is any HOA, the cost of furnishing, if you want to get that, and utilities like the operations cost for operations, right? Electricity, water, all of that. Like, how much are you expecting to spend per month?
Awesome. Okay, perfect. So, and Sophie said entry fee. All right, I love it. See, I gotta do this because we got, like, we're soaking it all up. I gotta see if you guys are remembering it, because I want you guys to walk away with something. So it's really like, that's why I told you guys this is gonna be very interactive. So we got in a creative deal, and we're gonna put all the info together. This one, we're going to work this together. So the purchase price for this property, let's say it was 267. You know, we're gonna use whole numbers for now. Let's put that 270. All right, and we know that it's a sub-2 deal. That's just one thing that we know. We know that the ARV, we're gonna do this again, is 320. We know that their PITI is 2,466. We know that the loan type is a VA loan. And we know the interest rate, let's say it's 4%. And there's no HOA for that deal. There's no arrears. And there's an agent involved. And let's say the agent fee is gonna be $5,000. HOA, 0. Arrears, 0. Right? The only thing we're gonna also need is the closing cost. If there is a wholesaler involved, so you just want to have these in your head, so at least you know to account for those costs. At least you know, all right, I already account for a wholesaler. I don't got to worry about that. None is involved. There's an agent. Okay, that's $5,000. What is their fee? See, that's where you want to do your proper due diligence on that. I missed out a key info. Can you guys tell me what that is? I missed out a very, very key info because it's a sub-2 deal. And this is going to be determined if I need to, oh, yes, Michael, I love it. You were quick. Yes, I didn't have the mortgage balance. So you always want to know that, what the underlying debt is. So let's say for this one, the mortgage balance is actually $265,000. That's the mortgage balance. So we have the purchase price is 270, the ARV is 320, PITI is 2466. You have the loan type, interest rate, all that good stuff. The first thing that we want to know is there any equity in this house? Am I overpaying on this house? So here's what we're going to do. If the property is worth 320, the debt is 265. So we're going to do some math. So the ARV, so it's 320 minus the debt, which is 265. You are left with so far
55.
How much? 55? Love it. So that's 55,000. And with any other cost, you need to pay the agent $5,000. So you're now at $50,000. Sure, that's not bad. 50K. And you also have, I forgot that, the down payment to seller. So this figure for the down payment to seller, it changes because it depends on this. Reason being, if you don't know how to figure out what this base number is, you may overpay the seller. What this means is you're going to have sellers and they'll be like, I want $90,000 for my house. Sir, where? Like, please tell me where. And if you're able to show them this breakdown, they get quiet so quickly. Because you're like, sir, this is what your property is worth. This is how much debt you have. Estimated 50. If you are supposed to sell, it's going to be lower than that. So you have to be able to calculate this number. So you know you're working with 50. So let's say there wasn't any wholesaler or anything involved. So you already know, you already have 50 to play with. So you can start the negotiation from there, but that's a whole different Zoom. Cause you can come up like, oh, with 50, I can give you 30,000. I can give you 20,000 because you already have the number, but you never want to do the full 50. Because there are other costs that needs to comes out of it, but we won't touch that yet.
What if they don't have any equity?
If they don't have any equity, then that's good. That's good. So now, if they don't have any equity, we need to figure out how much are these additional costs gonna be, what our expenses are gonna be, which will figure out our cash on cash return to see how much can we really give this person. What this means is you're not gonna be like, oh, I can give you 10,000, but when you give them 10,000, your entry fee goes up, which makes your cash on cash return maybe goes to 2%. You're like, oh, I can't do that if I give you 10,000. So this is what's going to help you to determine how much money you can give to the seller. So we're going to do that. So we know that, let's say basic, from this, we're going to give them $5,000. So I'm going to erase this. Where's my eraser? So I'm going to erase this and I want to figure out my total entry fee. So I'm going to figure out my total entry fee. And I want to figure out my income and expenses over here. I want to figure that out. So we know no HOA, no arrears. Agent is 5,000. Closing costs, average 3%. No, it's 3% of the purchase price, not the underlying debt. So the purchase price was $270. So 3% of 270, you're at 8,100. Right? So we're at closing, that's 8,100 plus 5,000. We're at 13,100 so far. And I'll write this to make it easier. I'm gonna move this over here. So I'm gonna put arrears, there's no arrears. So that's gonna be 0. Agent, that's 5,000. We're gonna put closing costs, 8,100. Wholesaler / acquisition, there's no one, so that's 0. Now we need furnishing. Now, this is what furnishing, and then we have rehab. Hold it.
And the cash to seller.
And the cash to seller. All right.
And
So,
your marketing costs.
yep. Love it. Perfect. All right. So now we need to figure out all these costs. Furnishing. The furnishing cost will come in because let's say this property is completely turnkey. And remember, you had looked on the short-term rental income. So maybe AirDNA told you that the short-term rental income is $4,000. You're like, oh man, I can do an SDR with this, right? If it's that the short-term rental number showed you that the income was only $2,000, would you still do a short-term rental? If AirDNA is telling you that the gross income is $3,000 and your mortgage payment is $2,466, would you do a short-term rental? No. So then you won't even account for furnishing costs because short-term rental exit is out of it. Let's say you're going to do rent by the room. And your rent by the room, you can make $4,000. Then you're like, ooh, anything for rent by the room, I'm going to have to furnish it. Won't be as fancy as a short-term rental, but I still need to account for something. Now, you don't have to know the exact number. You just want to account for something. But let's say for furnishing, just anything where you're going to rent it out long-term, and it's not like a traditional long-term rental, you're going to need furnishing. Pad split, short-term rental, mid-term rental, you're going to need furnishing. So let's say for this case, it's $10,000. Rehab is turnkey. There's nothing I need to do with it. Nothing at all, so that's zero. Which for me still, I still account for rehab. Because for me, I call rehab miscellaneous. Maybe I go into the property and any paint, so I may just throw a little $3,000 there just to be safe. But in this case, we're gonna put zero. Let's say the holding costs, again, everyone, some investors, they don't account for holding costs, some investors do. It all depends on your exit strategy. For a wrap, for me, I'll do 3 months. Aaron like having 6 months of holding costs because how the market is going right now, your wrap may not sell in 3 months. You want to make sure that even after the 3 months, you still have capital to cover the mortgage payment. You're still paying utilities, you're still paying water. So that's where you hold it. You may not know what utilities and water is, but at least you cover the basics, which is the mortgage payment, because that is important. Everything else you can come out of pocket, but at least for the mortgage payment, that's covered. So you'll find 3 months, you're gonna do 2,466 times 3. You're at 7,398. Do you guys see how quickly your entry fee is going up? Like just by asking these basic things. Now, marketing costs. Maybe in this case, if I'm gonna do short-term rental, I don't need to do a marketing cost. But if your exit strategies are wrap and you're doing it out of state, you're gonna partner with someone who can do the boots on the ground, put up the signs and take the phone calls and all that stuff. Whenever you're doing that, on average, persons account for 2 to 3% of the purchase price. But if you're gonna be doing it yourself, your marketing costs can be as low as $1,000. Because it maybe include running sponsored ads, getting a sign from Walmart, putting up in the yard, getting a phone number, putting it on flat fee on the MLS, which is like $95. So we're gonna use, in this case, $1,000. So our entry fee so far, we're at 5,000 plus 8,100 plus 10,000 plus 7,398 plus 1,000. You're at 31,498. See how quickly that went up from the 50K spread? So you're at, so I'm gonna squeeze this right here, 31,498. I should put this in green. Put this in green. So we're at 31,498. Is this a good deal? We don't know. We don't know yet because we don't know what's our cash on cash return is. So now we need to figure out how much money can this bad boy make us, right? So if the income, let's say in this case, the income is 4,000, right? It's $4,000. Oh, did I just put that? And we're gonna keep this again, super, super basic. All the expenses I'm gonna put in bracket, okay? So income is 4,000. PITI is 4,12466. Okay, then we're gonna have, what do you call this? We're gonna have, what is
Utilities?
it? Utilities. So utilities here. Let's say on average, you're gonna do $200. Then you have property management. Let's say we're gonna do 10%. That's what?
400.
And then you have reserves. Let's put, because it's fully turnkey, let's say I'm gonna put like 250 aside. And again, these numbers vary, guys. Even if the property negative, at least you know like these things are covered, right? The basics. Reserves, vacancy, maybe you put vacancy / capex, maybe you put another 250 there. So all of these are your war chests. Then let's say you have one thing that a lot of persons leave out when they're doing a short-term rental, they leave out the platform fees. those eat into your profit. Because you might think you can make 10,000, but Airbnb or whatever platform is taking out 3%, 4%. So for me, I account for those fees.
Yeah.
But in this case, I won't. We're gonna keep it simple. Another thing that we left out is the PML interest. Remember, you're going into this, I'm using private capital. The interest payment to the PML, it is an expense. But you won't know this amount yet because, I mean, so far we know that we're gonna raise 31,498 in private money, right? But we're gonna, actually, let's even put that number in. Let's say it's standard, we're gonna borrow 31,498 at 10%. And I won't do the annualized thing or anything like that. We're gonna keep it simple. So that's 3,149. Divide that by 12 because you want to know what is the monthly payment. So in total for 1 year, they're making 3,198 at 10% for 12 months. But for the monthly, it would be $262. That's going to be the interest payment each month. So you're coming out of pocket another $262. So right now our expenses are basic. This does not include cleaning fee because technically your cleaning fee, you mark that up and pass it on to the guests. So if your cleaners are charging you $130, you're going to list on Airbnb, maybe $150, $160. So I try not to account for cleaning fees in this as an expense because it will be paying for itself. So now we want to figure out what is the total expenses that we have. That's 4,000 plus, nope, 2,466 plus 600 plus 500 plus 262. So our total expenses are 3,831. That's 3,831. Minus that from 4,000, your cash flow is 169. Now, I'm going to remove this over here. And I'm going to show you guys something. And this is why you don't need a fancy calculator, because we're going to figure out what our cash on cash return is. Is this property making money? This is for anything that you're doing buy and hold. Your cash flow is 169. So to find the cash on cash return on investment, it's your annual cash flow divided by the total amount of money invested. So the cash flow is 169. So 169 times 12, your annual cash
2028.
flow, there you go, 2028. How much money did you invest? Who can tell me how much money was invested into this deal? Don't be shy, no answer, we're all learning. Yep, 32,000, because that's our entry. That's the total amount of money we're putting in to get into this deal. So we're gonna round up the 31,498 to 32. So the total cash invested is your total entry fee. This is all these costs. It's what it's gonna cost you to buy that property. So 2,028 divided by 32,000. You're going to get 0.063 times 100. Your cash on cash return is 6.3375%. And let's just do 6.3. That's your return on investment. Now, for some persons, they're going to be like, oh, no. So when you hear people talk about my cash on cash return, it needs to be 10%. It needs to be 12%. Now, this is not saying this is a bad deal. This is where you get creative, right? Because if you now see that, man, already at 32, I didn't even pencil something out for the down payment to the seller. And I'm already at 6%. If I decide to get the sellers 5,000, my entry fee goes up. and my cash flow, my cash on cash goes down. Again, the higher this number goes, the lower your cash on cash return is if your income is not increasing. So you got to look in this and you stare at it and you're like, okay, what can I do to increase that number? Aaron is laughing. That's what I do. I really look at it like, I don't want to turn down, I'm going to try a different route first. So I'm going to look at it. I'm going to look over here first. Okay. If $4,000, 4,000 income doesn't work, worst case scenario, what else can I do? That's when you start now exploring different exit strategies. Can I do rent by the room? And then I go on pad split. I put in the address. I look to see how much money I can make, how many properties are in that area, how much they're making, is it matching up? And I checked it out. Oh my God, pad split, I can make an extra $5,000. I can make 5,000. But I'm like, ooh. And what I love about pad split on their website, it gives you a breakdown of their expenses too. So as much as your income is going to increase, pad split now will come with their fees. But the good thing, they give you their fees so you can calculate that in your expenses. Let's say you're like, man, I want to increase this cash flow. Maybe you can decrease the reserves. You can decrease vacancy because maybe or you can decrease repairs. Suppose this was a new build, it's completely remodeled. Like they didn't even live in it for the most they lived in 2 years. But you still want to account for those things. One way as well, you can eliminate the PML interest and be like, hey, Abner, instead of coming in as like an equity, as a private money lender, do you want to come in as a capital partner? Yes, the cash flow will increase, but I'll still give you a majority of the cash flow, or we can split the cash flow in half and I'll give you equity. That way, if the property is performing low 1 month, you guys are both suffering. But if it's happening more than like 2-3 months and the PML, the lender is not making any money, that's when you get creative. Hey, I know you're in an equity and we're hoping to make this amount of cash flow. How about for your tax write-off? And I know you have 30% equity. How about I give you like a 50% so you can get that as a write-off? That's when you get creative. I know you guys are like this, like you don't have to remember this thing, but there are options out there. And these are questions you start asking yourself when you don't want to give up on a deal just because it doesn't cash flow. Because one exit strategy may not work, but there's another one, right? You can also come in here and possibly reduce your entry fee, if at all possible. Maybe if you're furnishing, it's really comes down to 5,000. Let's work this backwards. I want us to work this together. Let's say your furnishing dropped from 10,000 to 5,000. That means your entry 31,498 minus 5,000 becomes 26,498. So 2,028 divided by 26,498, you're at cash and cash, not a big difference, but it goes up to 6.76%. Not a major difference, but at least you see, if I decrease my entry, I can also increase my cash and cash return. If I'm going to increase this and the income isn't increasing or the expenses aren't decreasing, my cash on cash will never grow. So this is what it means when they say practice analyzing a deal. You don't need to be an expert or a master at underwriting, but you need to know what numbers affect what. It's fine if your numbers are off. It's fine. It happens to me up to this day. But at least when I'm doing something, I know all of the things I need to consider. If I am overestimating, that's fine. At least I know. So that's how you would do a, what do you call this? to figure out if you're making money or not. Now, a lot of times private money lenders will come in because again, it's a sub 2 deal, right? So the underlying debt, you have the bank that's in first lien. The private money lender comes in as second lien. So the private money lender is bringing this amount in. I always recommend if it's a buy and hold and you need a private money lender, if you can, just give equity. Because for that private money lender, they're like, well, I gave you $30,000 now. If this is a short-term rental, you're not going to make all that money in a year or 24 months to give me back my 30,000. How do you plan to repay me? Yes, you can find another private money lender to extend it, but you can say, hey, lender, here's what I'll do. We're new. We don't want to get married. We don't want to create an LLC and all that stuff together. Let's do 12 months. At 12 months, there are different options. I have you have firsthand to extend. I'll ask for an extension. If you're okay with it, we extend. If you're not, I'll give you first dibs to become an equity partner. So you start laying out all the options. Worst case scenario, I'll find a new lender to repay you, but you never ever want to say, I'll find a new lender to repay you as the first option. No, because what happens, you can't find that lender. For me, for a majority of my deals, I give away equity. I don't care. I don't care one bit. What is it costing me? Like, really? What is it costing me? The lender is pulling up the money. I'm finding the deal. I'm managing it. That's it. It shows that you also value what they're bringing to the table. Yes, you are bringing the deal to the table, which is the hardest thing to find, but money. If they don't bring the money, you won't have anything at all. So that's the basics when you guys are doing a creative deal. And there are so many different routes that you can take. And just doing this, you guys do not need a fancy calculator. Like, you really do not. I am challenging you guys to any deal that you get, whether you want to buy it or not, pretend as if you're buying it. Underwrite it on paper. No calculator. Oh, today I'm going to practice. I would never forget that when Brandon said 1 deal a day. And I would do 1 deal and analyze that. And you think it was going to take you 30 minutes. No, it's not. If you just put your phone down, it can take you 10 minutes. And you know what happens? You analyze 1 deal. You're like, oh, I'm getting this. That means if I need to do that, I need to do this. I'm going to do another one. Sometimes you end up underwriting 5 more deals. So that means if the same week you're short, you already did 5 deals in one night. Again, you don't have to be an expert at underwriting. You just need to know the basics, because when you know the basics, your confidence level increases. And when you're presenting a deal, you're so confident in your numbers, your numbers could be so off. It could be so off. But at least you can be like, hey, if we need to do that, if we need to increase the cash flow, we need to do this, X, Y, Z. But you guys got to practice. You have to practice. Any questions? What's not clear? I'm happy to go over it. If something's still not sticking out and you have a question, like, trust me, I've learned there is no question that's a stupid question or think that you should know it.
It always seems so clear when you're going through it until that deal comes up and you're like, okay, now I have to do it myself. And it's like,
trust me. And that's going to happen.
Of course.
That's really going to happen. But it's what do you decide to do in that moment?
Yeah.
Do you skip it?
No, I'll try it. Yeah, I'll try.
You try and you go over the steps.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know for myself, when I was just like you, completely new, I'm like, oh crap. And I would learn all the stuff. I watch the Zooms and all that stuff on Bigger Pockets, and I'll go back and I'll finally get a deal. I'll go on MLS. Oh, you know what you can do? Go on the MLS and start by doing cash deals. And I'll go on it and I'll be like, oh my God, I don't know this number. I forgot everything. But it was my mind playing games. Like I wanted to get anxiety. And I had to like breathe. And we're like, Kalisha, just relax. Take a breath, take a deep breath, relax. You got this. And I'm like, okay. So the first thing I need to do this, okay? And I start going so slow because that's just how my brain works. And I'm like, I need to do this and then that. Oh, I don't have this number, but I'm going to write it down and leave it blank for now. Let me go over to this side. Income, okay? The rent says I can get this. I need that, I need that, I need that. But I don't have this. Let me still write it down and leave it blank. And I just start putting the pieces together. Once you start putting there's no structure, like whatever works for you. If you put the income and expenses first, fine. If you figure out the debt first, fine. Then you just tie it all together, whatever it is that works for you. And you'll be good. But you got to practice.
Yeah.
You honestly like have to practice. Just one deal a day, one.
Yeah.
Seems a lot, but just one. And you'll get better. Aaron, anything? He's like staring.
Yeah, no. So yeah, that was great, right? So I go through and now I could run all the numbers. Are you gonna, how important is it for me to be in a certain lien position?
So good question. So if you're in first lien, right, that just means you're carrying a higher risk, but you're putting up the most money for the project. So you remember the first case study where the hard money lender brought up the entire project was 270 and the hard money lender brought 220. So because they're bringing over, actually, I'll say 70% of the funding, they're gonna be in first lien. They're bringing majority of the capital. It wouldn't be fair to give them second lien. No. So most hard money lenders, they're gonna, or a traditional lender, they're gonna be in first lien because they're giving you majority of the capital. Now, as much as you're bringing more capital to the table and you're in first lien, that's good. That just means you're carrying a higher risk. Because if the property isn't sold or isn't worth for what they're lending, they're losing way more money. Way more. But then as a second lien, if you're like a second lien holder, this person, they're like, all right, I don't have the full 20. I only have 50. I don't want to carry all the risk. I'm fine with not carrying all the risk. But here's a downside to it. If anything happens, the person second lien gets paid second. So you realize when we work the math, we didn't pay this private money lender first. Remember that 50,000? We paid that 220 first. Because they're in first lien, they brought majority of the capital. So they have to be paid first, being in first lien position. And then the person second lien get paid second because they brought 50. If we needed an extra 30,000, that person will go in third lien position. So it all depends on how much is the property worth, how much are you bringing to the table of that total amount, and that will determine what lien position that you go into. But it will also determine what risk level, how soon who gets paid first, second, third, or last, just in case the borrower disappear or the borrower dies or they default. Who gets paid first? So that's what it means when I talk about first lien, second lien, third lien position. So at least you understand that risk when you're raising capital from lenders. Now, if lenders don't want to be in any lien positions, that's when you give them equity. Give them equity, you guys create an LLC, and you do your operating agreement. That means you guys both are carrying the risk. You guys are both benefiting from it. So what I see a lot of times is that the private money lender may go in as an equity partner. And for some reason, they think as an equity partner, they're also getting interest payments. You're like, no, 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 no. Especially if it's a buy and hold. No, no, no. I mean, it's a fix and flip. I've seen creative deal structure done like that. But if it's a buy and hold, hey, in this case, you have to make it clear that, guys, we are partners. The operating agreement shows profit and loss is split 50-50, 70-30. If the property is not making the money, you're not making the money. I am not making any money. So there's no interest payment. If there's interest payment, then you have a whole separate set of documents. You have your promissory note, you have your deed of trust, you have all that stuff. But standard, if the lender comes in as an equity partner, you just have your entity. You have your LLC and you have your signed, and I say signed because I've seen a lot of cases people do LLC and operating agreement and there's no signature. No signature. You gotta get it signed. So whenever you're getting the funds, get the paperwork signed. Have the lender, hey, this is the operating agreement, here are the terms. Are you okay with it? Have your attorney review it. If they're like, yes, I'm good, fine, send them in a DocuSign, please sign this agreement and you sign it as well. But never just send a blank document. You're doomed if that seller decide to come, that lender decide to come back and be like, I want to be out. But that's a whole different conversation we can go down and how to handle it. But we get the basics of underwriting and we should be good. Oh, this is good. Oh, people are still coming on. This is interesting. Do you guys have any questions? Like, because I had this scheduled for 2 hours, so we're still gonna be here. If you guys have to leave, totally understand. If you have any other questions, like underwriting, raising capital, figuring out what exit strategies to choose on, ask them away. This is more intimate, it's a smaller group, so don't be shy. I'm thinking what else I can share so it's not overwhelming.
What's the most common thing that you see that gets a deal denied from not being able to fund it?
Not having a second exit strategy. That's very, very common. Or they're not accounting for the additional cost. Like they will just have, this is a down payment to the seller. This is the agent cost. This is the closing cost. And then when we're like, is there an agent? What's their fee? Is there a cash to seller? Is there a down payment to the seller? What's their amount? Do you have holding costs? Like they'll be like, oh, the exit strategy is a wrap. And we're like, do you have holding costs? No. And that's gonna be like a no. Because it's not a guarantee that the wrap is gonna be sold in 1 month. Who's paying for that? And then furnishing as well. Sometimes persons don't account for furnishing. Now your furnishing can be high, it can be low, but if you're gonna do a pass split, you have to have a number. And the good thing, which I found out today, Pad Split have something on their website. If you're going to do rent by the room, they give you a shopping list and how much things are gonna cost. And I was like, that's amazing. So if you have a 3-bedroom and you're gonna turn it to a 6-bedroom, you're just gonna put 6, the number of bed and bathroom, and Pad Split will like generate a shopping list for you. And there's a link. So it would say, you need a door lock. And because you put that you're gonna have turn it into a 6-bedroom, it will tell you need 6 and how much the 6 cost. So they'll give you an entire like outline, furniture, appliances, all that stuff that you're gonna need. So you can include that in your setup costs.
Yeah, and if you're doing pad split, make sure you take into account the extra renovation costs as well to add all them bedrooms.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. There you go. And it's always good to have a second exit because I think, and even for a lot of us, we're all in sub 2 and you just hear wrap. Oh my God, low equity, you can do wrap. But wrap doesn't work in every market. It really doesn't. So if you don't have a wrap, can I do a lease option? So standard, a lot of persons, if wrap doesn't work out, the next backup is a lease option. how does those numbers look like? I had a wrap in San Antonio. And after like 2 months, after 3 months, I'm like, oh, this is not working out. I have a PML. They got to be paid. Thank God for the PML. I was paying the agreement was the interest would be paid at the end of the loan term. Right? So I had to switch my exit strategy. I knew going in, if the wrap doesn't work, I would do a short-term rental. And I know if I just went that route, I would need an extra, let's say, $20,000 that I'd have to raise, because furnishing. Then I need to account for more holding costs. Maybe at least 1 or 2 months, 2 months at least, 1 month to get it ready to start ordering furniture, set up. And then once it goes live, it's not a guarantee you're going to be fully booked for the first month, especially if you launch in a slow period. You need that capital to cover. So we had to go back to the same lender and be like, hey, we need an extra 30,000. And in exchange, we'll give you equity. So your first 30 will stay in the deal. Just bring an extra 30 and we'll give you equity. And what we did, the 30,000, the interest payment from the first 30,000, was it included in the $30,000 that we raised? So we kind of used that lender's capital to pay them the interest from the first loan. And it covered our holding costs while we're renovating. And we just gave them equity in the home. And they're like, I'm fine. They wanted a tax write-off either way because they have capital sitting on. They're like, we want the tax write-off. Give it to us. We'll take it. So these are things that you guys really have to account for. And that's why having a second backup, a backup exit strategy is key. We're thinking, what else? So if you're here and you want us to raise capital for, I'm going to drop the link in the chat. I can't forget what it was. But I will say, honestly, if you guys submitting deal to us, if you present all the info at once, we can do a proper underwriting and get back to you instantly. But if you skip out all the info, then you are delaying the time for us to approve your deal or not. Because we outline every single thing we're going to need to underwrite, and then person will just skip over it, and we still have to message them, hey, we need this. We can't do underwriting without it. You're going to say something?
So yeah, while she's saying that, instantly means in a short amount of time. It's not going to be instant, just so you know.
True. True. That's very true. At least 24 hours. But Aaron is pretty good. He he gets them done quickly and he approves them quickly, but that's because he has all the info that he needs. And then if you're short, you go in the queue that need more info. And we got to wait until you respond to give us the additional info, because our time and effort is going to spend on persons who submit all the details for their deal. Let's see, copy link. So I'm going to copy this link and I'm going to share it in the chat. I hope this works, because sometimes it doesn't. See, yep, sometimes it doesn't work. Ignore that link. I don't think it will work. Can you guys try that link and see if it works? Because I know sometimes it doesn't. That's the wrong link, I think.
No, I took it to a login.
It goes login? Okay.
Yeah.
If I go here, and then I go here, switch. Oh yeah, let's close.
You're looking for the intake form?
Yeah. I think I have it
I got it right here.
Oh, I love it.
Okay.
Gracias.
De nada.
Yes, oh my God, yes. There you go. Oh, damn, you saved the day. I need to bring you on my team. You just saved the day.
There we go.
Love it. So guys, if you need capital, submit to that deal. If you guys need like one-on-ones or anything like that, or anything with private money, you guys can check out my website. It has a bunch of stuff on that. And should be getting, what else was there? Erin, am I missing anything? No. All right, send in this link and then we all should be good to go. Copy. Gonna send that.
I have a question, if that's okay.
Oh, of course.
I'm so sorry I got on here late, but I can't remember whether or not when I logged on that it's recorded. Is it recorded?
Yes, it is.
Okay. When will it be available for me to do the replay on it?
So hopefully I can send this out before Wednesday.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay. Thank you so much.
you are welcome. All right. Any more questions before we wrap up? All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. This was great. I love how intimate this was, and I hope you guys found value with it, get a clear understanding of doing a basic underwriting. And I hope that you guys practice. Like, I really, really hope that you guys just practice just one deal, just make time, 10 minutes, just do one deal and you'll be fine. Where will we find a recording? So if you signed up, Ronnie, which you have I have your email, I'll just send you, everyone that signed up, an email with the recording. So you guys can review it. But hope this was helpful for you guys, and thank you for your time and being attentive and participating and working with the numbers. Let this all soak in, but you'll never get better if you don't practice. So one deal a day, even if you do it, just send me a text, post it on Facebook or whatever it is. I did one deal, I analyzed one deal, send me a message. Just say, I do one deal, I analyze a deal today. That would make me proud.
Check it. No, I'm just kidding. That's what
I
I'll
mean-
be doing.
I mean, that's why I said you post it and you tag me, or you send it to me in a DM in Facebook Messenger.
Girl, thank you.
Yes, keep you guys, you got to keep yourself accountable. It doesn't make sense to be hopping on all these Zoom in not doing anything.
You're right.
Like, you gotta, if you want to get the underwriting, you have to do it. You really have to just practice. Joanne, did you go over creative deals? Yes, we touched on the basic things, Ronnie, about underwriting for creative deals as well. So you're definitely gonna get this when you're rewatching the recording. All right, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much and have a great night.